Chapter 11. Zhang Tianhao, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation, Sis Xiangyi. Tang Hao lowered her head and greeted her. You're here. Qin Xiangyi was leaning against the door frame. She furrowed her brows and looked suspiciously at this boy in front of her eyes. I haven't seen him for a few days. Why do I feel that this boy has changed drastically? His aura is totally different now. Hey Lil Tang, I haven't seen you in the past few days and you've grown handsome. She covered her mouth and laughed, her tone of voice carrying a hint of mockery. Tang Hao bashfully rubbed the back of his head. Don't make fun of me, Sis Xiangyi. I'm speaking the truth. You look a lot fairer too. Qin Xiangyi walked toward him, and he could smell the exotic fragrance she carried. She leaned close to Tang Hao and scrutinized his face. That beautiful, dimpled face was incredibly close. He could sense the aroma of her breath that leaked from her lips that were slightly apart. The breath was warm and somewhat intoxicating. Indeed, your skin has become fairer. Don't tell me Sis Yen was telling the truth. What's the truth? Tang Ho was confused. The beauty cream. Sis Yen mentioned it to me yesterday. Said she bought a can of beauty enhancement cream from you. She said it was some sort of an ancestral recipe. I didn't believe it at first, but now that I see you I think I'll have to agree with her. Oh, Tang Hao replied. The Sis Yen that Qin Xiangyi was talking about was, of course, Wu Yanyan. They lived in a small housing area, and it was no surprise that they knew each other. Yup, I do have something like that. Sis Yen bought 10 boxes, too. Tang Hao said. But I see that you already have such pretty skin. I don't think you need the beauty cream. Qin Xiangyi chuckled. You're such a slicker, Lil Tang. She then continued, a little surprised. Sis Yen bought 10 boxes. It must be good stuff. Do you still have more? I'd like to try one. Alright, I'll send it over in the afternoon. How much is it? Tang Hao hesitated. 5,000, but the first one's free. If you want more, I can give you a discount, Sis Xiangyi. It was Qin Xiangyi's turn to be shocked. Her charming eyes were opened round and wide and displayed a look of incredulity. She thought that Tang Hao was joking. It was a little ridiculous that a box of home-made beauty enhancement cream can fetch an amazing price of 5,000 yuan. Was the boy mad, or was she mad? Sis Yen. She really bought it. For 5,000 each. Her voice was dry. Yup. You can ask her if you don't believe me. Qin Xiangyi stared at Tang Hao for a long time before she smiled drily. Alright, I believe you. You can deliver a box later in the afternoon. I'd like to see the miraculous effects of the beauty cream for myself. Alright. Tang Hao replied. After delivering the packages, Tang Hao bought some cigarettes and fine wine for Uncle Li. He told him that he met a benefactor and had an opportunity to earn some money on the side. After that, he returned home to concoct some beauty enhancement cream, after which he delivered it to Sis Xiangyi. In the following days, Tang Hao delivered packages in the day, and concocted potions and cultivated his qi at night. He imbibed 2 portions of the liquid of spiritual condensation every day, and his cultivation progress was stable and fast. However, cultivating like this incurred a massive expense. 1 portion of liquid of spiritual condensation required 15,000 yuan's worth of components, so 2 portions per day cost 30,000. That was like burning money. He had also stocked up an admirable inventory of the other potions and creams. He contemplated upon improving the packaging design so that he could start marketing those. About a week later, he received a call from President Biao. Hey Lil Tang, do you have any more potions? Those friends of mine, they've been pestering me every day for more of that good stuff. I'm almost going crazy here. Especially the aphrodisiac potion, a lot of people want it. Tang Hao rushed over to Azure Sky Gardens after the call. He delivered 10 bottles of aphrodisiac potion, 20 bottles of weight loss potion and 10 boxes of beauty cream. That was another 410,000 yuan. Hey Lil Tang, I told those friends of mine about you, and they would like to meet you very much and get to know you better. What do you think? Tang Hao hesitated. What's there to think about? All the friends I have are in various positions of power. It will be beneficial for you in the future if you are acquainted with them. Tang Hao thought over it for a bit, then agreed. Alright, it's decided then. I'll bring you over tomorrow night to meet with them. Right. Please wear something decent. Lil Tang, don't mind me being frank, but you've made quite a bit of money, so why don't you go buy a few decent pieces of clothing? As the saying goes, clothes make the man. It would be inappropriate if you don't dress properly. Alright. Tang Hao agreed while scratching his head. He was confused as he left Azure Sky Gardens. He had never bought any decent clothes for himself before. He thought about it for a bit, then rode on his little three-wheeled motorcycle to Sky City Plaza in the city center. Sky City Plaza was the premier shopping mall in the city. Many famous brands were anchored there. Each item of clothing cost 4 or even 5 digits, well out of reach of the typical consumer. Tang Hao attracted many curious eyes as he stepped into Sky City Plaza. Some of them were disgusted at his shabby looks, and some were condescending. Tang Hao was currently wearing a wrinkled white button-down shirt and a faded pair of jeans that had holes in various places. His shoes were torn and tattered, and his hair was unkempt. His outfit was shabby and made him look destitute, a stark contrast to the other customers who were dressed in bright-colored and expensive new clothes. He stood out like a sore thumb amid this crowd. Hey, where did this poor kid come from? Ha, look at that pauper. And he dares come to Sky City Plaza. Doesn't he know what this place is? He can't even buy any single item of clothing with his whole month's salary. The people around him were whispering and talking to each other. Tang Hao furrowed his brows and paid no heed to them. He continued walking inside, and after surveying for a while, entered a store. The saleswoman in the store gave him a side eye and immediately furrowed her brows. She cast him a condescending glance. She even found it disgustingly funny. He was obviously a poor kid. How was he so shameless that he entered the Sky City Plaza? She saw Tang Hao reach out to touch one of the suits on display. She immediately shouted at him, "Keep your hands to yourself. You can't afford the suit." Tang Hao furrowed his brows and frowned. He did not stop touching the suit though. His hand pinched and touched the fabric of the suit. Hey! Are you deaf? I told you to stop touching it, can't you listen? That suit is very expensive. If you dirty it, can you afford to pay for it? The saleswoman's shrill voice sounded angry as she walked toward him. Tang Hao looked at the price tag and smirked, "It's only 9,000 yuan, do I look like I can't afford it?" Ha! Do you think you can? That's funny. Take a look at you, you must be dirt-poor. You must be a peasant laborer. And you still want to buy a 9,000 yuan suit. In your dreams. The saleswoman showed him a scornful face as she snatched the suit away from his hands. Tang Hao squinted and his face turned darker. So what if I'm a peasant laborer? Am I hindering your duties? We don't welcome peasant laborers here. The saleswoman shrieked. She tilted her head upward and looked condescendingly at Tang Hao. Tang Hao could feel anger well up in his chest. He was about to say something when he saw a couple entering the store. The couple looked to be 17 or 18 years old. The girl was pretty, and she was wearing a pure white dress and had straight black hair. The boy was tall, well-built and handsome. The couple was cuddling as they entered the shop. Tang Hao's face changed. That boy was Zhang Tianhao, and the girl was his first crush, Li Qiaoqiao. Chapter 12. In Your Face. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Tang Hao furrowed his brows and his face darkened. Zhang Tianhao was the culprit in the incident that resulted in his expulsion from school. Fighting in school would not usually result in expulsion, so he must have done something behind him. Tang Hao cannot forgive that grudge. He did not resent that his girlfriend was snatched by him. This world was a materialistic one, and he could only blame himself for being poor. His gaze shifted toward the beautiful girl that stood next to Zhang Tianhao. Memories of the past flooded him like the incoming tide. At that moment he was detached from reality. His face looked bitter for a while, then immediately became cold and distant. Both of them used to be intimately close with each other, but now they were mere strangers. Hey! Stop taking up space in the store. I have real customers here. The saleswoman looked at Tang Hao with disgust as she yelled at him. I say, don't a peasant laborer like you know any shame? Do you know what kind of place Sky City Plaza is? Do you think people of your social class can afford anything here? The saleswoman continued to raise her voice as she looked condescendingly at Tang Hao. The couple came over to see what was happening. Where did this peasant laborer come from? Has he no shame? Zhang Tianhao joked. He did not recognize Tang Hao at first glance. He took a closer look at the person and was shocked. Then, he laughed out loud. Oh, I thought who might it be? Turns out it's an old friend. Li Qiaoqiao had also recognized Tang Hao by then. She looked uncomfortable. She glanced at Tang Hao and showed an expression of disgust when she saw his ragged outfit. Zhang Tianhao laughed as he walked over. Long time no see, Tang Hao. Living the high life. He acted like he was an old friend, but his tone of voice was sarcastic and jeering. Ah, right. I forgot. You're a peasant laborer. You must be hauling bricks at a construction site somewhere. It's a lot of hard work, isn't it? He wore a false expression and he did not hide the tone of mockery in his voice. Tang Hao's face darkened and did not offer a reply. Ha! Still as stubborn as before. Zhang Tianhao smirked. I say, Tang Hao, you should be conscious of your status. You can't escape your fate from being a poor peasant forever. Some places are not meant for poor peasants like you, such as this place. F***ck off if you don't want to be embarrassed even further. Can't you look at yourself? You're in such shabby clothes, do you think you can match this place? Don't you think so too, Qiaoqiao? As he said that, he reached out and huddled the girl close to him and looked at Tang Hao provocatively. Tang Hao's face grew even colder. He abruptly sneered. What's the matter, young Master Zhang? Looking down on peasants. Don't forget that your ancestors are peasants too. Also, this is a store for everyone, right? If the doors are open, who is to say who can come in and who cannot? I'm just gonna stand here. Who's going to kick me out? He glared at Zhang Tianhao again, then looked toward the saleswoman standing at the side. Ha! You dare to talk back? You don't look like you can afford anything here, so what did you come in for? If your filthy hands ruined a shirt, can you afford to pay for it? The saleswoman shrieked. Shut up. Tang Hao roared, it's only 9,000 yuan, right? Now, look carefully with your dog eyes. He opened his backpack and retrieved a stack of banknotes. He flung it toward the saleswoman and hit her squarely on her face. The saleswoman yelped in surprise and stepped backward. She was dumbfounded when she saw the thick stack of banknotes on the floor. She guessed that it was a stack of 100 yuan notes. She did not expect a shabbily dressed poor looking kid would have 10,000 yuan in his backpack. It's just 10,000, she mumbled, still carrying a hint of condescension. She guessed that the 10,000 yuan must be this kid's life savings. Not enough. Tang Hao reached into his backpack again and pulled out another stack, then threw it at her. 20,000. Is that enough? No. There's more. Tang Hao threw stacks of cash at her one after another. He threw another 5 stacks in total. The saleswoman was flustered and even a little dizzy. One stack of banknotes was 10,000 yuan. There were 7 stacks, which meant 70,000 yuan. This poor kid had 70,000 yuan on him. Even Li Qiao and Zhang Tianhao, who witnessed all this, were shocked. Where did this fella get 70,000 yuan from? How is it possible? Zhang Tianhao looked ghastly. He knew that Tang Hao came from a poor family, and had been working odd jobs ever since he was expelled from school. How was he able to save up 70,000 yuan from doing odd jobs? He had expected Tang Hao to live a life of poverty and hardship for the past year. When he saw Tang Hao's appearance from the door earlier, he was even more sure that it was the case. However, Tang Hao casually threw 7,000 yuan in cash. The gesture made him dizzy. Even a typical white-collar worker would only earn this much in a year. So what talents did Tang Hao have so that he could earn this much money? Li Qiao was dazed. She was perfectly aware of Tang Hao's household condition. Now, she was becoming suspicious. That should be enough, right? Tang Hao smirked. He continued to speak loudly, "Where's the store manager? I would like to ask them if this is the manner that your store conducts business. Even a saleswoman can mock their customers." His voice was booming and was heard over a wide area. Even passers-by outside the store also stopped to look at what was happening. "I am so sorry, sir." A middle-aged woman hurriedly ran from the interior of the store. She bowed at Tang Hao. Won't you apologize to this sir over here?" The saleswoman unwillingly bowed and muttered, "Sorry." Tang Hao did not want to pursue the matter. He stepped forward and picked up the money. "Sir, as a token of apology, I would like to offer you a 10% discount on your total bill. What do you think?" The store manager said. "Whatever." Tang Hao replied nonchalantly. He did not care about such a small discount. Zhang Tianhao interjected. "Humph. What are you so arrogant about? How can an odd-job worker like you earn so much money in a year? Don't tell me you're doing something illegal." Tang Hao smirked. "Zhang Tianhao, which of your dog eyes saw me doing something illegal? You." Zhang Tianhao was angry. His face turned all red. "Tang Hao, how dare you mock me? So what if I did? Why, you want to fight? I don't fight with people like you. I won't stoop to your level. I have an uncle who's a police officer. I'll get him to run a background check on you," Zhang Tianhao said viciously. Tang Hao rolled his eyes at him and laughed, then turned around and continued looking at the suits. He had to find one that fit him perfectly for the meeting tomorrow. "What do you think of this suit, sir? It matches your body type well." The store manager gave recommendations by the side. Tang Hao finally picked a suit, then entered the fitting room. It was Tang Hao's first time putting on a business suit. He felt a little awkward in it, and took him a long time to dress up properly. He smoothed his messy hair with his fingers. When he saw the new him in the mirror, he was shocked. Is this really me? The trim business suit had turned him from a poor kid into the scion of a noble family. He had undergone a total transformation. Chapter 13. Planted Evidence. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. When Tang Hao stepped out of the fitting room, the store manager could only gawk at him. The boy that stood in front of her had undergone a full transformation by only changing his clothes. The trim business suit emphasized his fit body and well-proportioned face. It gave him the aura of a noble. Her eyes sparkled as she heaped silent praises on him. Not too far away, Li Qiao happened to look at him. She was also stunned as if she did not recognize him. Zhang Tianhao could not believe his eyes as well. His face then darkened as his heart burned with the fire of envy. He had always thought that he was on a level above everyone else. He considered himself to be the most outstanding man, especially against people of a lower social class like Tang Hao. However, he had been utterly defeated this time. He became angrier as he saw Li Qiao's changed expression. Humph. What's the use of his good looks? He's still a lowly peasant laborer. I think he has the potential to be a gigolo. Those rich fat cougars love unweaned little boys like him. I say, Tang Hao. Don't tell me you earned the 70,000 yuan from being a gigolo. Zhang Tianhao jeered. Tang Hao cast a steely glance at him and retorted, how lowly and despicable. How your mouth stinks. Young Master Zhang, can't you stop farting from your mouth? You. Tang Hao. Zhang Tianhao was enraged. His wide and round eyes were shooting daggers at him. Even his face was contorted and looked vicious. Oh. Tang Hao chuckled and ignored him. He turned around and told the store manager, not bad, it fits my body. I'd like this suit and another 2 more of the same design. The store manager replied with glee, yes sir. She quickly brought over 2 suits of the same design and wrapped them up. One set is 9,000, and a 10% discount makes it 8,100. For 3 suits, that will be 20,400. Let's round it to 20,400. Tang Hao retrieved 3 stacks of banknotes and removed 6,000 yuan from them, then handed the store manager the rest of the cash. Excuse me. Tang Hao stepped outside. Li Qiao looked at him with a perplexed expression. The boy in front of her was so dazzling, she almost could not recognize him. As for Zhang Tianhao, his face was as sullen as a puddle of muddy water. His squinting eyes flashed with a hint of disdain. For an instant, a hint of viciousness flashed past his eyes. Just as Tang Hao passed by him, he took a step forward and pretended to tap his shoulder. Not bad, you look like a dog in human clothes. As he spoke, his other hand reached out and planted a small box in Tang Hao's backpack. His actions were inconspicuous to the normal human eye. Of course, Tang Hao did not have normal human eyes and saw all this happening. This bastard. Tang Hao knew that he was framing him. In a flash, he immediately thought of a way to counter it. He immediately grasped Zhang Tianhao's wrist and gave it a hard twist. Aw! A piercing scream. Sweat rained down Zhang Tianhao's face. What are you doing? Let go of me. He yelled. Tang Hao, let him go. Li Qiao panicked. She rushed over and tried to pull the 2 boys apart. In the confusion, Tang Hao retrieved the small box from his backpack and shoved it into Li Qiao's handbag. He then let go of Zhang Tianhao and said angrily, don't touch me with your filthy hands. He then smirked and headed out of the store. He had only stepped out of the store when he heard cries of shock behind him. My ring. My ring is missing. How did it go missing? Li Qiao asked. How about I know, I saw it just earlier. I know, it must be him. He stole my ring. Hold it right there, Tang Hao. Tell me, did you steal my ring? Tang Hao smirked and continued walking. Stop. Stand right there, do you hear me, you thief? You despicable thief. Zhang Tianhao yelled with all his might. The people all around stopped walking when they heard the word thief and crowded around. Stop. Tang Hao. Zhang Tianhao rushed out of the store and pointed a finger at Tang Hao. Tang Hao, I did not expect that you're a thief. I used to think that you are only poor, I didn't think that you are shameless as well. I was wondering how you could earn that much money. Turns out that you stole it. Tang Hao, I despise you. The people standing all around them spoke in low voices and pointed at Tang Hao. He looks handsome. Too bad he's a thief. Tang Hao stopped walking and turned around. He glared at Zhang Tianhao. Young Master Zhang, you've been saying that I stole something from you. So, can you tell me, what did I steal, and if you have any proof? If you don't have proof, I will sue you for slander. Proof? Of course I do. It's in your backpack. I bought a pair of rings with Xiao Xiao earlier, and you stole the one that belonged to me. Do you know how much it costs? 12,000. A ring that cost 12,000. Wow. Young Master Zhang, you're pretty rich. I didn't know your father earns so much money as a school principal. It's none of your business how much my dad earns. Security. Where's the security? Arrest him and throw him in jail. Zhang Tianhao was yelling in all directions. The crowd around them grew bigger and the discussions grew wilder. Soon, 2 security guards squeezed past the crowd and arrived at the scene. What's the matter? One security guard asked. He is a thief. He stole my ring. Quick, arrest him and bring him to the police station. The 2 security guards glanced at Tang Hao and their faces sunk. As the security guards of this high-end mall, they hated thieves the most. The 2 security guards exchanged glances, then walked toward Tang Hao. Kid, you're coming with us. Wait. Why are you 2 such idiots? I'm a thief just because he said so. Then I'll say that he's a rapist. Tang Hao smirked. Well. The 2 security guards were taken aback. Tang Hao, you still don't admit it. Looks like you'll only be convinced when the cruel reality hits you in the face, Zhang Tianhao said viciously. He ran toward the 2 security guards. The ring must be on him. You should search him. You have a point. Kid, you better cooperate. The 2 security guards walked toward Tang Hao. Search all you want. Zhang Tianhao, what if they don't find what you lost? How is that possible? The ring is definitely with you. I'm not so sure of that, Tang Hao smirked and submitted himself to the search. The 2 security guards did not find anything out of the ordinary on his body. When they opened his backpack, they were stunned when they saw the stacks of banknotes. They looked suspiciously at Tang Hao. What's so strange about this? I'm here to shop for some clothes. It's not out of the ordinary that I have cash on me, right? The 2 security guards did not know how to respond. They finished searching the backpack, and their faces became awkward. We didn't find the ring you're talking about. So what's going on? The 2 security guards stood up and looked suspiciously at Zhang Tianhao. Zhang Tianhao was taken aback, and the color of his face changed. No. How is it possible? How is it possible, I had just... He immediately choked on his words. He rushed madly at Tang Hao, snatched his backpack and spilled its contents. He did not find the item he was looking for. What's going on? Zhang Tianhao stood there as if his soul had left his body. Chapter 14. Let's go, honey. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation, why isn't it there? Zhang Tianhao was behaving like a madman. He shook the backpack violently, then tossed it on the floor. It's impossible. Tell me. Where did you hide it? He lifted his head and looked at Tang Hao with vicious eyes. I say, young Master Zhang, you've already searched my backpack through and through. Why are you still so insistent? And why are you still so sure that I stole your ring? Don't tell me. You're trying to frame me of something. Tang Hao's eyes narrowed and he looked like he was toying with his prey. Don't accuse me, Tang Hao. Zhang Tianhao was starting to panic, tell me, where did you hide the ring? Why are you asking me? I've never touched your ring, let alone stole it. Might you have misplaced it somewhere and forgot about it? How could it be? I was carrying it in my pocket all this while. After I tapped your shoulder, it's missing. Who else could have stolen it if not for you? In your pocket. Are you sure? Maybe you forgot that you put the rings together in her handbag. Tang Hao pointed at Li Qiao. That's impossible. Zhang Tianhao laughed. Really? Why not take a peek inside? The second question was spoken to Li Qiao. Li Qiao hesitated for a short while, but still opened her handbag and searched through its contents. Her face changed, and she cried out, how could it be? She retrieved 2 boxes from the handbag. Zhang Tianhao looked like he was struck by lightning. It's impossible. Impossible. I had planted it in the backpack. He abruptly stopped speaking. Zhang Tianhao's face was a ghostly pallor. So it's really you after all. Young Master Zhang, you're such a genius. Tang Hao smirked. There was a sudden uproar in the crowd. It turned out that the victim had been the perpetrator after all. Look, he's so smartly dressed, but he's just a despicable and shameless crook. The crowd commented as they looked at Zhang Tianhao with disgust. How could it end up like this? Zhang Tianhao was despondent. He did not understand how the box that he planted in Tang Hao's backpack had ended up in Li Qiao's handbag. Unless he knew right from the start. He could not believe it. Young Master Zhang, I could not believe that you wanted to frame me. You're an animal in human clothing. Tang Hao walked up to Zhang Tianhao's face and glared coldly at him. He then abruptly leaned next to Zhang Tianhao's ear and whispered coldly to him. You persuaded your father to expel me, right? I've never forgotten about this grudge. Then, he looked at Li Qiao. Qiao, you've picked the wrong guy. He's just a dishonorable crook after all. Li Qiao stood there, stupefied. She even looked a little pale. Stop farting from your mouth, Tang Hao. Zhang Tianhao, is more superior to you 100 times, no, 10,000 times. Who are you, Tang Hao? You're just a peasant laborer fated to toil for someone else forever. You lowlife. Qiao is now my girlfriend. Who are you to talk to her like that? Remember. She is my girlfriend. Not yours. Do you think you are a match with Qiao? Zhang Tianhao had lost control of his emotions and was yelling madly. He rushed over and hugged Li Qiao tightly. A demonstration of dominance. I wonder which blind woman will fall in love with a poor kid like you. Qiao was right to ditch you and fall for me. What I can give Qiao, can you give too? Tang Hao was expressionless. He did not look at Zhang Tianhao but rather fixed his gaze upon Li Qiao. Li Qiao remained silent, and her face became paler and paler. What are you looking at? Stop using your dog eyes to look at my girlfriend. Zhang Tianhao's face was close to insanity. Tang Hao took one last glance at both of them, and his eyes displayed a hint of mockery. He crouched, picked up the backpack and its contents. Suddenly, he heard a flirtatious voice coming from beside him. Honey, why are you here? Tang Hao was shocked. He thought the voice sounded familiar. He looked toward the source of the voice. Amid the crowd, a curvaceous silhouette was walking toward him. She was wearing a black full-dot body dress adorned with crystals. She shone brilliantly under the light and all eyes were on her. Her body was voluptuous and seductive. That dimpled face was enchanting, and she exuded grace and charm. Her appearance had caused all the eyes in the mall to converge on her. The men's eyes were bulging as they swallowed hard. *CK slender waist, long legs. This is a masterpiece. Someone mumbled. He had spoken the feelings of every male in the mall. After that was a series of grunting and yelling in pain. It was the sound of men being pulled by the ears by their wives. Tang Hao stood there, stunned. Isn't that Sis Xiangyi? Why is she here? And who was the honey she was referring to? He instinctively turned around to look at who she was calling. Qin Xiangyi had already walked close to him. She smiled and reached for Tang Hao's arm with her delicate hands. She then leaned over and rested her head on Tang Hao's shoulder. A scene of tenderness and love. Honey, I've been waiting for you. Oh, who are these two? Qin Xiangyi spoke with a flirtatious voice. Everyone around them was stunned. If you listened closely, you might even hear the sound of hearts shattering. That's Qin the femme fatale. Who could this kid be? How could she be interested in him? There's no justice in this world. Qin the femme fatale likes young boys. Wailing sounds were heard all around. Zhang Tianhao and Li Qiaoqiao stood frozen in their place and stared at this woman who had abruptly arrived at the scene. She was so charming and eye-catching, as well as sexy and seductive. Zhang Tianhao's mind was blank. His face was ashen. This can't be. This can't be. How can this lowly person find such a beautiful woman to love him? Li Qiaoqiao, standing next to him, was nothing when compared to this woman. Bvec it did not matter whether the comparison was of her appearance, or body, or upbringing. Li Qiaoqiao was utterly defeated. Meanwhile, Li Qiaoqiao felt bitter in her heart. She felt inferior when she was compared to this woman. She looked at the boy whom she had once fallen in love and subsequently ditched, and now he had found someone 10 times, no, 100 times better than her. This was the feeling of being overwhelmingly crushed. Tang Hao stood there stiffly. What are you doing, Sis Xiangyi? Tang Hao whispered. I'm helping you. These two people are horrid. I saw everything earlier, so now I'm helping you to get back at them. Qin Xiangyi pressed her face against Tang Hao's cheek and whispered into his ear. Her red lips were slightly open and a fragrant breath was exhaled from her mouth. It tickled when she blew on Tang Hao's face. Her red phoenix eyes narrowed as she looked at Tang Hao's side profile, then joked. Oh, Lil Tang, I didn't expect you to be so handsome after changing clothes. Even a big sister like me might fall for you. Tang Hao's face became even redder. He coughed lightly, then spoke, these two used to be my classmates. Oh. Ex-classmates, but they don't sound very kind to you. I heard him say that no woman in this world will fall for you. I think he's blind. My honey is so outstanding, why wouldn't any woman fall for him? As for this girl. She's just so. Too thin, and the breasts are so small. A.cup, I guess. Well, B.cup at most. And her ass is so small too. Li Qiaoqiao was trembling and her face became even paler. She looked for a hole to jump in as she stood in front of such a formidable opponent. Zhang Tianhao's expression had turned ghastly. Honey, enough dealing with these people. They're not worth our time. Let's go. After that, she clung to Tang Hao's arm and they walked outside. Chapter 15. Gathering. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Hand in hand, the two people left Sky City Plaza. Everyone stopped to stare at them as they passed by. The F***CK. Are my eyes playing tricks on me? Isn't that Qin the femme fatale? Damn, who's that pretty boy? Everyone's jaw dropped. There were fewer people on the street outside the mall. Tang Hao exhaled a sigh of relief. He was on tenterhooks while walking in the mall. The people around looked at him with killing intent, as if they were going to flay him with their eyes. Qin Xiangyi chuckled and joked, how's that, Lil Tang? Feeling pressured? I'm fine. I'm fine. Sis Xiangyi, you have such charm. Tang Hao smiled. Right, Sis Xiangyi, won't this affect your reputation? What reputation? I don't have a boyfriend, so what's there to be worried about? How about you be my boyfriend? Qin Xiangyi laughed slyly. She sounded like she was joking, but also sounded serious. There was something different in the way she was looking at Tang Hao. Thump. Thump. Tang Hao's heart was beating hard. Qin Xiangyi laughed. I was just joking. I'm not in the market for a boyfriend yet, but whenever I do, I'll put you in consideration. You're torturing me, Sis Xiangyi. Tang Hao laughed drily. Why, think you're not on my level? Qin Xiangyi said, you lack confidence, Lil Tang. Look at you now, so handsome. Many girls will fall for you if you know how to sweet talk. Tang Hao blushed. Qin Xiangyi released Tang Hao's hand, then tidied his clothes. She did not stop chuckling, looking at how embarrassed Tang Hao was. Right, why did you suddenly buy clothes? Qin Xiangyi asked. Oh. Bro Biao asked me to. He said he had a few friends who wanted to meet me tomorrow, and I had better get myself some decent clothes, Tang Hao replied. That's very good advice from Jin Biao. Otherwise, you wouldn't even be buying new clothes. Qin Xiangyi said. She paused for a while, then continued, I'll come along tomorrow then. I know the friends that Jin Biao is talking about. Don't worry, I'll let Jin Biao know myself. Oh. Tang Hao replied. Why didn't I notice that you're so amazing before, Lil Tang? That beauty enhancement cream was wonderful. And I heard that you have weight loss and aphrodisiac potions too. Her face was blushing slightly when she mentioned the aphrodisiac potion. You already know. Tang Hao felt awkward. Why wouldn't I? That fella Jin Biao is praising you to the high heavens. He says that you're an otherworldly genius. Tang Hao rubbed the back of his head and replied awkwardly, I'm no genius. Qin Xiangyi burst out laughing. Even if you're not, I guess your ancestors are. They left such amazing recipes for you. Tang Hao smiled and did not reply. Both of them chatted as they walked. Soon, they arrived at a red sports car. It was Qin Xiangyi's Ferrari. Tang Hao heard that it cost more than 5 million yuan. Want a ride? Qin Xiangyi asked. I'm fine. I have a motorcycle. Qin Xiangyi was taken aback, then laughed out loud. You're keeping such a low profile. You must have earned quite a bit of money by now, you should go get a driving license and a nice car. Men need nice cars. No rush. Tang Hao replied. That's true. See you tomorrow then. Right, can I ask for more boxes of beauty enhancement cream tomorrow? I have a few good friends asking for it. Do you have more? I have a few. That'll do. See you. After that, Qin Xiangyi opened the door to her car and scuttled in. She waved to Tang Hao as she ignited the car engine. In a short while, the sports car disappeared out of sight. Tang Hao saw that she was gone before hopping onto his three-wheeled motorcycle and drove back to Tang Village. The next morning, he delivered 5 boxes of beauty enhancement cream to Sis Xiangyi. In the evening, he returned to Azure Sky Gardens. He was dressed in his new business suit, and he even made sure that his hair was neat. President Biao was shocked when he saw him. Oh my, you're Lil Tang. He dashed in front of him and scrutinized him from top to bottom. Lil Tang, you look amazing. I'll have to admit that you're just a teeny bit more handsome than I was when I was your age, he exclaimed. He had just finished speaking when Wu Yanyan came over and pulled his ear. Nonsense, you. You only know how to brag, and you still want to compare yourself with Lil Tang. Ow, ow. Darling, please let go. President Biao cried agonizingly. Wu Yanyan harumphed and tossed President Biao aside. She smiled as she took a closer look at Tang Hao. Oh my, Lil Tang, you really don't want Sis Wu to introduce a girlfriend to you. I can't bear to see you fall into other hands. No need. No need. Tang Hao replied hastily. Sis Wu had been trying to introduce him to a girlfriend every time they met. He was a little intimidated by that. Just then, a red sports car drove by. The car door opened after the car was parked, and out came someone beautiful. She was in a black one-piece dress, though the style was very different from yesterday's dress. It was more delicate and grand, which added to her aura of nobility and exquisiteness. Oh! Qin the femme fatale is here. President Biao shouted. Sis Yen. President Biao. Lil Tang. Qin Xiangyi greeted each of them. Lil Tang, do you want to sit in my car or Qin's car? President Biao asked. Tang Hao pondered for a moment, then replied, I'll sit with Sis Xiangyi then. Wow, look at this kid. Hoes before brothers. President Biao grumbled, alright, you'll sit in her car then. We'd better make a move, it's not early. After that, he hopped into his Land Rover, while Tang Hao rode on the same car as Sis Xiangyi. They headed north after leaving Azure Sky Gardens. About 20 minutes later, they arrived at Beyond Heaven Restaurant, one of the top-end restaurants in the district. Let's go. Private room number 503. President Biao led the way upstairs. The private room already had many people in it. Judging from their dress, they were very rich people. Oh! President Biao is here. Why is Qin the femme fatale here too? All these people stood up when they saw the party enter the room. They were surprised when they saw Qin Xiangyi come in. President Biao, is this the brother Tang you were talking about? That right, that's him. Qin Biao stood aside and pointed at Tang Hao while introducing him. This person here is Tang Hao, brother Tang. What do you think? Oh wow, brother Tang looks talented and handsome. What a coincidence, my surname is Tang too. And my name is Changfeng. A man walked over and enthusiastically grabbed Tang Hao's hand, then shook it forcefully. Comment: this man looked to be about 50 years old. His appearance was plain and was slightly plump. Brother Tang, I might look like this now, but a few days ago, I was a lot fatter. All thanks to your weight loss tea that I've lost about 40 or 50 pounds in a few days. That was a miracle. He did not let go of Tang Hao's hand as he continued speaking. I say, brother Tang, do you have any more of that weight loss tea? Give me a few more bottles. Ah, OL, Tang, what are you saying? You're going out of order. A fat man rushed over and shoved Tang Changfeng aside. He grasped Tang Hao's hands and smiles piled on his face, then he said cordially, brother Tang. Don't worry about him, give it to me first. He's already so slim, what's the rush? Oh, right. My name is Lu Dajuan. If you don't mind, you can call me Big Bro Lu. Tang Hao retracted his hand and addressed each of them. Big Bro Lu, Big Bro Tang. He then hastily added, please don't worry. When I make more in the coming days, you'll be the first ones I'll contact. That's a deal. Remember to give it to me first. Lu Dajuan exclaimed. The other three people came over to introduce themselves one by one. President Biao pointed at Tang Changfeng and Lu Dajuan and introduced them to Tang Hao. Lil Tang, this OL, Tang, he's in the construction business. As for OL, Lu, he's in the property business and is super rich. Don't hold back when naming a price for his potions. Then, he pointed at the other three people. This OL, Li owns a shoe factory. OL, Huang here runs a furniture business, and OL, Ma is an antique dealer. His nickname is Ninth Elder Ma, and he is one of the most prominent people in the antique business. Tang Hao greeted each of them. President Li and President Huang looked rather plain, both were about 50 years old. As for ninth elder Ma, he looked distinguished from the other people. He was dressed in a scholarly Chinese suit and stood straight. He was already more than 60 years old but still looked energetic. "Come, let's sit down." President Biao ushered everyone to their seats. Chapter 16. Amazing massage skills. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Let's sit here, Lil Tang. Qin Xianyi pulled Tang Hao's shirt sleeve and dragged him aside. Lu Dajuan and the other people laughed when they saw this. "Hey, Qin the femme fatale. You're being so intimate to our brother Tang. Don't tell me you've fallen for him." They joked. Qin Xianyi's composure did not falter. "Why, who's gonna stop me? Also, when did Lil Tang become your brother Tang?" She joked. "Lil Tang addressed me as Big Bro earlier. So we're a family now." Lu Dajuan smiled. The atmosphere became merry as the party attendees took a dig at each other. Two more people joined the party a while later. After a round of greetings led by President Biao, dinner was soon served. Beyond Heaven Restaurant was one of the best restaurants in the district. The dishes served there could not be found elsewhere. Tang Hao had never seen such delicacies before and wasted no time in eating everything he could. A few dishes into the meal, Lu Dajuan said, "Hey, Lil Tang. Your potions are wondrous. Frankly, your big bro Lu has never seen such miraculous potions in all 50-odd years of his life. Dilvi Ko, if I can invest some money and mass-produce the potions, we'll be earning billions if not trillions." "No problem." Everyone nodded in agreement when they heard this. Tang Hao set his chopsticks aside and replied, "I'd love to, but it's not that easy. The recipes require certain rare medicinal herbs, so the supply of ingredients is already a problem. The next problem is manufacturing. It requires some peculiar steps in the process, and I can't replicate it into the big scale anytime soon." "Oh, is that so? Too bad." Everyone looked disappointed. "It's fine then. Lil Tang, you can make more and we'll promote this for you. You can still easily make 7 or 8 figures out of this," Lu Dajuan said. "I'll have to thank all my big brothers in advance." Tang Hao replied gratefully. "Don't mention it." Lu Dajuan slapped his chest and said intensely, "Come, Lil Tang, let's toast." He stood up from his seat and toasted Tang Hao. Ninth Elder Ma, who had been silent all this while, spoke abruptly. "Little brother Tang, I see that your potions are made from pure medicinal herbs. Your ancestors must be Chinese physicians." Tang Hao was taken aback. His ancestors were humble peasant farmers from the village and not Chinese physicians. If he agreed with him, and if someday these people went to Tang village and traced his origins, the jig would be up. He thought about it for a bit, then shook his head. "That's not the case. Well, to be honest, these aren't actually recipes from my ancestors. Rather, I've serendipitously found several medical texts from ancient times in the mountains. I studied them thoroughly and concocted these potions." "Oh, is that the case?" President Biao and the others looked surprised. Ninth Elder Ma was also surprised. "Ancient medical texts. That means you should know some medical skills too." "A bit." Tang Hao replied humbly. The scripture of the divine herbalist was not only an encyclopedia of herbalism but was also a medical text without comparison. In its introduction of the myriad medicinal herbs, it had also described the ways to cure many diseases and ills. Everyone suddenly had a newfound respect for Tang Hao. They had originally thought that Tang Hao had learned the potion recipes through his elders, and knew how to make these potions from his knowledge of herbalism. They did not expect him to know medical skills as well. They believed that those who practiced medicine were of a noble profession. Thus, they regarded doctors with respect. Qin Xianyi's eyes also brightened when she learned of this fact. Excuse me for my ignorance. Ninth Elder Ma stood up and raised a cupped fist as a greeting to Tang Hao. You're too kind, Ninth Elder. Tang Hao returned the greeting. Lil Tang, my shoulder has been acting up these few days. The pain won't go away. The problem has been plaguing me for the longest time. Do you have any cure for that? Tang Chongfeng said. It might be a frozen shoulder. Tang Hao said. Right, that's the one. It's been causing me a lot of trouble. Tang Chongfeng replied. Tang Hao pondered for a moment, then said, that's simple. Won't take too long to cure. Really? Tang Chongfeng was not ready to believe him yet. Frozen shoulder was not a complicated trouble, but it was persistent. It usually took months or even years to recover. How was it possible that he could cure it in a short time? Even Ninth Elder Ma looked at him with suspicion. Tang Hao stood from his seat and said, if you don't believe me, then I'll provide the treatment right now. It won't take too long anyway. As he spoke, he walked behind Tang Chongfeng. How are you going to treat me? Tang Chongfeng looked puzzled. With my hands, of course. Sit tight, big bro Tang. Tang Hao stretched out his arms and wiggled his fingers. Then, he placed his palms on Tang Chongfeng's shoulders. He inhaled lightly to activate the qi in his body, then channeled it to his palms. A short while later, his fingers started to move. They pinched the shoulders in varying degrees of strength. Tang Chongfeng felt that the hands on his shoulders were boiling hot. A warm current coursed through his body and was very comfortable. Tang Hao stopped a few minutes later. Tang Chongfeng was hoping that it was not over yet, and looked disappointed when he realized that it was. I'm done, big bro Tang. Tang Hao pulled his hands away, try moving a little. Lil Tang, your massaging skills are amazing. Where did you learn that? I feel so comfortable after the massage like I've grown a few years younger. Tang Chongfeng stood from his seat and stretched his limbs. A look of surprise came over his face. Oh. It doesn't hurt anymore. It's cured. It's really cured. Tang Chongfeng looked ecstatic. He turned around and passionately grabbed Tang Hao's hands. Amazing. You're a legend. Lu Dajuan still looked doubtful. Is it really cured, OL, Tang? It's cured. Totally cured. I don't feel any more discomfort. I feel very energetic too, like I'm a few years younger. Tang Chongfeng exclaimed. What? He's that amazing. Lu Dajuan slapped his thigh and looked shocked. The other people were also speechless. This sounded impossible. Did he cure Tang Chongfeng's frozen shoulder just by rubbing and massaging? In the past, they would scoff at such a claim. However, this was Brother Tang they were looking at. If he could concoct such amazing potions, then he could as well be equipped with amazing massaging skills. Furthermore, OL, Tang did not look like he was lying. Damn son, you're a legend, Brother Tang. Lu Dajuan exclaimed. President Biao laughed and said, I just know that our Brother Tang here is full of hidden talents. Little Brother Tang, I must admit that you have opened my eyes. Ninth Elder Ma stood from his seat. So can you cure my legs and my back? They've been giving me problems and me too, Lil Tang. I've been feeling tightness in my chest lately. Me too, Lil Tang, look at this bald spot on my scalp. Is there some amazing hair growth potion for that? President Huang, President Li and the rest scrambled from their seats. Chapter 17. Chen Sandao. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation, no rush, one by one please. Tang Hao said hastily. Ninth Elder, your waist and leg problems are simple to treat. I'll just massage them for you and they should be cured in no time. You ought to take more nutritional supplements at your age. Tang Hao thought for a moment, then continued. How about this? Some other day I'll concoct a potion to strengthen your body and improve your health. I guarantee that you'll feel a lot stronger after taking it. All right. All right. Thank you, little brother Tang. Ninth Elder Ma said delightedly. Then, Tang Hao turned toward President Huang. President Huang's hair was thin and he had a bald spot in the middle of his scalp. This was the typical case of male pattern baldness. President Huang looked sincerely at Tang Hao. Lil Tang, do you think you can do something about my hair? Tang Hao thought about it for a bit. He remembered that the scripture of the divine herbalist had an entry on herbs that promoted hair growth. He nodded, and said, it's curable. I'll concoct a potion for you another day. That's good news. President Huang breathed a long sigh of relief. He looked grateful. His baldness had plagued him for the longest time. He had taken many different types of medications and tried different alternative treatment methods, though none bore any effect. He was anxious about losing his hair bit by bit every day. Tang Hao's reply gave him a ray of hope. Lil Tang, come, a toast to you. President Huang brought him a cup of liquor and toasted him. Following that, Tang Hao diagnosed the problems for the rest of the party. Body pains like the frozen shoulder could be treated on the spot by massaging. As for the other ills, Tang Hao had their cures, though he needed to concoct their potions at home. Lil Tang, you're a miracle worker. Lu Dajuan clung to him and did not stop pouring liquor for him. Tang Hao used to be bad with alcohol. However, as a cultivator, he could stomach this bit of liquor without feeling ill. He drank cup after cup and his face did not change color. President Biao and the rest were amazed when they saw that. After dinner, they chatted for a little while longer before going home. Before they left, President Huang and the rest asked for Tang Hao's bank account. They all transferred some money to him. The least was 10,000 and the most was 50,000. In the blink of an eye, Tang Hao was richer by another 200,000 yuan and some more. Tang Hao watched as the transfer notifications appeared on his phone. If this was before, he would have been ecstatic. Now that he was used to receiving huge amounts of cash, he remained composed. President Biao was a little tipsy. Tang Hao walked him to his car while Wu Yanyan drove it away. Lil Tang, follow me. Qin Xianyi said with a gentle voice while looking at him. She stood straight while clutching her handbag. The lights behind her illuminated her face in dreamy colors. At this moment, she was hauntingly beautiful, and Tang Hao was dazed for a long time as he looked at her. He came to his senses a while later, and he was blushing. Qin Xianyi chuckled. This chuckle was like the blooming of a flower, and there were no words to describe that beauty. It felt like the night sky brightened. Tang Hao scratched the back of his head, and he felt awkward. Let's go. Qin Xianyi covered her mouth and smiled. She flicked her luscious hair, then turned and walked toward her car. Tang Hao jogged and caught up to her. Lil Tang, I realize that I don't know you that well. I didn't expect that you would know such amazing medical skills. You have such great talents, so why are you still delivering packages? Qin Xianyi turned to look at Tang Hao. Her charming eyes reflected an indescribable mystery behind them. To make a living. But now that I'm earning quite a bit from the potions, I should be quitting the job sometime soon, Tang Hao replied. That makes sense. Maybe you can concoct some more beauty enhancement cream and pass it to me then. I'll sell whatever you give me, Qin Xianyi said. Thank you, Sis Xianyi. You don't have to be so polite. Both of them wandered on the streets, chatting while walking toward nowhere in particular. An hour later, they returned by the original path. I'll send you back. Qin Xianyi pointed at her Ferrari and told Tang Hao as they entered the Beyond Heaven restaurant parking lot. It's fine. It's already so late. I'll go home by myself. It's quite far from here to Tang village, and you'll waste a lot of time on the return trip, Tang Hao said. I'll just take a cab. Qin Xiangyi thought for a while, then nodded and walked toward her sports car. Just then, a few black cars entered the parking lot. The tires screeched loudly as they braked in front of the two people. The car doors opened, and several burly men with intimidating faces got out. They looked like they were inviting trouble. Tang Hao's face changed color. He scanned his surroundings, a little confused about what was going on. He noticed that the car in the middle was especially luxurious, and looked like it was the leader's car. The car door opened. Out came a middle-aged man who looked to be about 30 years old. He was well-built and his face was harsh. He had a knife scar on his left cheek which added to his viciousness. So you're the pretty boy. He glared at Tang Hao when he stepped out of the car. His gaze was like a ferocious wolf. You're a brave one. I, Chen Sandao, had never had my woman snatched from me before. Tang Hao furrowed his brows and looked at Qin Xiangyi. Qin Xiangyi's face was cold. She chided, Chen Sandao, you had better be more respectful. I, Qin Xiangyi, had never had any relationship with you. I've told you many times, stop bothering me. Tang Hao understood after listening to what Qin Xiangyi said. This man was one of Sis Xiangyi's pursuers. Chen Sandao's face twitched and he looked even more vicious. Xiangyi, you are my only love. Why don't you ever understand that? You'd rather fall for pretty boys like this and not accept me. Tell me. Which part of me cannot compare to this pretty boy? Just give up already, Chen Sandao. I will never like you, Qin Xiangyi said insistently. You. I'm only doing you a favor by loving you. If you reject my love, then there's no reason for me to be courteous. Chen Sandao was enraged. His expression was savage. Cripple this pretty boy. If I can't get her, nobody else can, he shouted his orders to his minions around him. You dare, Chen Sandao. Qin Xiangyi began to panic. Why not? Don't you like this pretty boy? I'll cripple him in front of your face. Chen Sandao, don't be rash. There's nothing between me and him, nothing between. Who are you bluffing? You're so protective of him. Stupid, you think I'm an idiot. Go. Go teach this boy a lesson now. He yelled. The burly men received their orders and closed around Tang Hao. How dare you? Qin Xiangyi screamed as she stood in front of Tang Hao. Chen Sandao became angrier when he saw this. His heart burned with the fire of jealousy. Beat him up. Break his arms and legs, then ruin his face. I'll see who dares touch my woman from now on, he roared viciously. Run, Lil Tang. Qin Xiangyi screamed. Her face was full of panic and helplessness. I'm sorry for dragging you into this. She sounded like she was about to cry. Tang Hao stood there, he remained composed. Why aren't you running away? Qin Xiangyi was becoming more agitated. Tang Hao smiled. He reached out to grab her shoulder and comforted her, don't worry, Sis Xiangyi. It's just a bunch of hooligans. Qin Xiangyi was shocked. Her eyes were wide open as she looked at him. Just a bunch of hooligans. What is he saying? Didn't he see the size of this group? There are at least 20 people here. Each one of them is bigger and stronger than he is, and they don't like they would be showing any mercy. How can he fight them all? Don't worry, Sis Xiangyi. Tang Hao patted her shoulder, then took off his coat and handed it to her. Please hold on to this, I'll be back soon. After that, he cracked his neck and coolly stepped forward. Chapter 18. Sent flying with a kick. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless fantasy translation, ha ha ha, this son of a b asterisk tch is mad. Just a bunch of hooligans. Huh, this kid is mad. Let me be the first to fight. I'll break one of his arms first so that he'll kneel and beg for mercy. The burly men burst out with unbridled laughter. This kid could not have looked more than 18, but he wanted to fight all of them alone. This was perhaps the funniest joke they had ever heard in their lives. Tang Hao casually stepped forward, cracked the bones in his neck and loosened his necktie. His face became serious and even looked ice-cold. He had never been so angry in his life. This group of people had threatened to cripple him and even insulted Sis Xianyi in front of his face. Unforgivable. He said to himself, and his gaze turned colder. I'll beat up you, stupid kid, one of the men roared, then raised a fist and aimed it at Tang Hao's face. His cruel face displayed a hint of glee. He knew that this fist will draw blood on the kid's face. He could even already hear the agonized cries of this kid. He did not expect the boy in front of him to be so composed. It was even a little scary. In a flash, he looked upward, and his eyes were as sharp as lightning, and struck the soles of his opponent. Then, as swift as lightning, he delivered a kick. Bang! A dull thud. His kick landed on the man's chin. The man became unconscious. Her brain became blank, and the next thing he knew he was flying in the air. Then, he fell heavily on the ground. Everyone was shocked at that instant. All the burly men standing around him looked at them with bulging eyes as they saw that hulking body fly backward for 2 meters and land on the ground. Hiss. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. The expressions of the burly men looked as if they had just seen a ghost. F***ck, what the hell? He sent that person flying with one kick. Is this kid human? Chen Sandao could not look away. His eyes almost popped out of their sockets. How could this be? How could this be? He mumbled as his face became contorted. Meanwhile, Qin Xiangyi standing by the side was also shocked. Her eyes were opened wide and her hands covered her mouth as she screamed. Tang Hao remained composed. He retracted his leg and dusted his trousers. He looked around him and said coldly, "Why are you guys just standing there? Are you all idiots?" The burly men came to their senses and immediately became enraged. Brothers! Looks like this kid has learned kung fu before. Let's **ck him up. Someone shouted. A few others opened the car boot and pulled out baseball bats and machetes, then distributed to the rest. Nothing counters kung fu mastery like a good whack to the noggin. We'll swarm you with numbers, you son of a b***tch. The group of burly men laughed sadistically as they swarmed onto Tang Hao, wielding the baseball bats and machetes. Ha! That's only true against kung fu novices. Tang Hao chuckled. He tore off his necktie and ran forward. Facing down a burly man that was running into him, he nimbly dodged aside, then punched his abdomen with a fist. The burly man let out an agonized cry. His body was bent like a prawn and his face was white as a sheet. Foam gurgled from his mouth. Tang Hao snatched the baseball bat from his hand. He shoved him aside, then hurled the bat at another burly man. The baseball bat struck the man with a thud and he fell. In the blink of an eye, Tang Hao had knocked out 2 men. Tang Hao casually stepped forward and casually dodged the attacks. Facing this pack of wolves, he was a ferocious tiger. No one was a match for him. His actions were nimble and sharp, and he knocked out one person with every punch. There was a certain beauty in the violence. After fighting against a bunch of hooligans last time, Tang Hao had devised a set of martial arts techniques of his own. As his cultivation grew, his techniques also grew stronger in power. Agonized cries rang out from amid the crowd. People were sent flying and falling. The weapons were scattered all over the place. Chen Sandao froze on the spot, unable to move. His face was pale, and his well-built body trembled with fear. Sweat drops fell from his forehead. Oh my God! Who the hell is this guy? How can he be so powerful? He's like a monster. His trembling became more and more violent. His heart was panicking. The scene that unfolded in front of him was like a living nightmare. As for Qin Xiangyi, her charming eyes were wide and round, she could only stare at the valiant silhouette amid the crowd. The silhouette was not tall or burly, but it looked like a mountain in her eyes. Thud. The final person fell. Tang Hao flexed his wrists and walked toward Chen Sandao. Don't come near me. Do you hear? Don't come near. Chen Sandao cried as he stepped backward. Tang Hao only smirked. He continued stepping forward, then threw a punch. Weren't you so arrogant just now? Didn't you say you wanted to cripple me? Now let's see who's crippling whom. Tang Hao threw punches one after another without holding back. Chen Sandao fell onto the ground and curled into the fetal position as he cried for his father and mother. Tang Hao continued punching until he was satisfied. He crouched to his level and spoke viciously, "Remember, don't disturb me, and don't disturb Sis Xiangyi. Otherwise, be careful of your life." Then, he stood up and walked back toward Sis Xiangyi. Qin Xiangyi was still standing there with a dumbfounded look on her face. She only came to her senses when Tang Hao appeared in front of her. She looked straight at him. "Lil Tang, can you tell me, just who are you? How are you so proficient in fighting?" She looked as if she was talking to an alien from outer space. Tang Hao laughed it away. "Well, I've been practicing since I was young. I'm not a kung fu master, but it's good enough against hooligans like them. Lil Tang, I think I almost don't know you. You're a great Chinese physician, and now I know that you know kung fu. Tell me, what else do you know? I'd like to be mentally prepared against any surprises you might pull." Qin Xiangyi smiled stiffly. "That's all there is, really." Tang Hao waved his hands. Qin Xiangyi stifled a laugh. As she continued looking at Tang Hao, her charming eyes flashed brilliantly. All right. Put on your jacket then." She handed the jacket in her hands to him. Tang Hao took the jacket and wore it. Qin Xiangyi stepped forward to straighten his jacket. Chen Sandao's heart burned with jealousy as he saw this scene in front of him. Damn it, shameless cheese. Just you wait. He gritted his teeth, and his face contorted. A killing intent flashed in his eyes. "Sis Xiangyi, I'll follow you home. After we reach Azure Sky Gardens, I'll take a cab from there," Tang Hao said nervously as he looked behind him. "All right then, let's go." Qin Xiangyi opened the car door and stepped into the car. After they reached Azure Sky Gardens and Tang Hao saw that he had safely entered the house, he left the place, hailed a cab and returned to Tang Village. Once home, he sat down and imbibed another potion of the liquid of spiritual condensation, then started cultivating. Chapter 19. You're under arrest. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Tang Hao got out of bed at about 8 o'clock in the morning. He had only slept for a few hours but he felt well rested. He contemplated his schedule for the day. After delivering packages, he would have to make a trip to the medicinal herb market. He needed to buy the components for a few more portions of the liquid of spiritual condensation. Then, the components for the weight loss and aphrodisiac potions and beauty enhancement cream. He also needed to buy some other medicinal herbs to concoct new types of potion, such as potions for health care and hair growth. Health care and hair growth potions. These potions should have business potential. Tang Hao mumbled. He opened the front gate and pushed his little three-wheeled motorcycle and walked out. He shut the gate, and just as he was about to hop onto his ride, he heard a booming voice coming from next door. Hey, Lil Hao, delivering packages again. The voice was piercing and sounded derisive. Tang Hao furrowed his brows and turned to look. He saw a girthy middle-aged woman coming out of her house. She was holding a rice bowl in her hand and looking at him with disgust. Tang Hao sighed and cursed his bad luck. He turned back, pushed his three-wheeled motorcycle and walked toward the road. Hey, you little whelp, where are your manners? Don't you greet your elders when you meet them? Humph. You're a hooligan indeed. No manners. His aunt yelled at him without any reservation. My Bowen is still better. He's a university student. He has knowledge and manners, how outstanding. Unlike you, you're fated to deliver packages for all your life. Sigh. Too bad your dad died early, and he didn't get to educate you. She continued talking. Enough. Shut up. Tang Hao could not bear it anymore. He could tolerate her disparaging him. They were relatives after all, and his uncle had helped him before. However, he could not tolerate her talking bad about his father. Ha, little whelp. You've grown a pair. You dare to talk to me like that. His aunt was riled. She laid down her rice bowl and chopsticks. With her arms akimbo and her round eyes, she looked like a mad woman. Come round, my fellow villagers. Come and look at this uneducated whelp who yelled at me. What an ingrate. The people next door heard the commotion and came out of their houses to look. A few young children sneaked out of their houses and scuttled over. Pay attention, kids, don't be like him in the future. He didn't stay at school and became a hooligan, so he can only do lowly jobs like delivering packages. You should learn from my Bowen. Study hard, get into a good university graduate to be a government official. That's called success. The young children looked at her, not quite understanding what she said, then they turned to look at Tang Hao. All right, that's enough. Can't you just be kind to our nephew? His uncle came out of the house. Ha! You're siding him. Why are you siding with this kid who has no manners and no future? His aunt roared. His uncle was intimidated and did not say anything more. Tang Hao took a deep breath to suppress his anger. He pushed his little three-wheeled motorcycle and walked on the road. Just then, he saw a police car come from the end of the road. Police cars were a rare sight in Tang Village. They attracted a lot of attention. Who's in trouble now? A few villagers discussed among themselves. The police car drove straight on the road and stopped near Tang Hao. The car door opened and two police officers stepped out. One looked to be about 50, while the other was about 20. The middle-aged police officer looked around and shouted, "Which one of you is Tang Hao?" There was an uproar immediately when the villagers heard that. The crowd of villagers looked at Tang Hao with strange gazes. Why is it Lil Hao? Did he get into trouble somewhere? Why is Lil Hao always in trouble? He was in the hospital for half a month earlier from fighting with hooligans, and now he's in trouble with the law this time. The villagers chattered among themselves. Meanwhile, his aunt became pleased with himself, and her delight was palpable. Just look at him, I was right about him. I knew that he'll run into trouble and go to prison one day. See what's happening now. It's such a shame that someone like him exists in Tang Village. That's right, he brought shame to Tang Village. Several people agreed, and they looked condescendingly at Tang Hao. Tang Hao was confused when he looked at these police officers. He could not remember if he had done anything against the law. Was it the incident last night? That can't be. I don't think the bunch of hooligans called the police. The two policemen noticed Tang Hao. The middle-aged police officer stepped forward and looked at Tang Hao with hostile eyes. So you're Tang Hao. Come with us. What's the matter, officer? Tang Hao said. We've received a tip that you are involved in a robbery. We would like you to assist us with investigations, the middle-aged officer replied coldly. The discussions among the villagers suddenly became more intense. Oh. And a robbery too. I didn't know that he's like that. This kid looks human but he's actually a thief. Our Tang village's reputation is ruined, his aunt shouted. The villagers' gazes became more and more condescending. I didn't expect Lil Hao to be like that. No wonder. His dad died when he was young and no one looked after him. He'll eventually get into trouble. The villagers discussed in hushed voices. Tang Hao's face changed and he felt anger well in his heart. Robbery. How was it possible? This is made up. Someone tipped them off. Someone is framing me. He suddenly recalled what Zhang Tianhao said. Excuse me, officers. Might you be mistaken? Even if you've received a tip, shouldn't you verify that it's true? Tang Hao said. Of course we have. The middle-aged police officer was stoic. We did a check on your bank account and found that you have more than 800,000 yuan in it. We also know that you're only a delivery boy, so tell me, how does a delivery boy get 800,000 yuan? The discussions became more intense again. 800,000 yuan. Oh my God. Where did Lil Hao get this much money? He must have stolen it. Stealing 800,000 yuan. How many years of prison is that? Tang Hao suppressed his anger and said, I earned this money with my own hands. It's not stolen money. As for the robbery, it's all made up. I'm being framed. Ha. The middle-aged police officer smirked. Still arguing. You're just a delivery boy, how did you earn 800,000 yuan? You can't even fetch that much money if you sold your body. His face became vicious and turned to order at the younger police officer. Cuff him. We'll bring him back and interrogate him. Tang Hao finally noticed that something was not quite right. This middle-aged police officer was deliberately picking a bone with him. He thought carefully again and recalled that Zhang Tianhao had mentioned that he had an uncle who was a police officer. Was this him? If that were the case, then there was no use talking sense. This police officer was out to get him. Even if he was found innocent, his reputation would still be ruined. Chapter 20. A Furor in Tang Village. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Wait. Tang Hao took a step backward and roared. Still trying to deny it. The middle-aged police officer smirked. Tang Hao was a lot more composed. Officer, your surname is Zhang, right? I wonder if you know a certain Zhang Tianhao. The middle-aged police officer's face changed, but quickly regained his composure and he looked more vicious than ever. Yes, my surname is Zhang, but what about it? I don't know who this Zhang Tianhao is. I warn you, if you don't give us your fullest cooperation, we will arrest you by force. I don't think you would want to lose face in front of all your fellow relatives and villagers. I can at least make a phone call, right? Tang Hao replied casually. The middle-aged police officer was surprised, then he smirked. He is only a poor kid from a rural village. He's probably lucky that he has a cute face and has a sugar mama. What kind of person might he know? He's just stalling for time. Alright, make your call then. I'll tell you, there's no use even if you called the emperor for heaven, he boasted. Tang Hao calmly took out his phone from his pocket and dialed Lu Dajuan's number. Lu Dajuan was in the property business. He was very well connected and carried a certain authority. He should be able to help him. The dial tone beeped for a few times before the call went through. On the other end of the call was Lu Dajuan's spirited voice. Hey, it's Lil Tang. Missing me so early in the morning? Big bro Lu, I'm in some trouble now. 2 police officers looked for me, they said I'm involved in a robbery and want to arrest me. What? On the other side of the call, Tang Hao could hear Lu Dajuan jump. Damn it, which bastard wants to frame my brother Tang? What robbery is he talking about? What a mess. With your talents, why would you need to go rob money? They're definitely mistaken. Big bro Lu, they're adamant in saying that the 800,000 yuan in my bank account is stolen loot, Tang Hao said. What? Stolen loot? Damn it, these two police officers must be blind. Can't they trace the transaction records? Don't tell me. They're framing you. Lu Dajuan realized what was going on. Don't panic, Lil Tang. Do not go with them. Now, hand them your phone, Lu Dajuan said. Tang Hao agreed, then handed the phone to the police officer. The middle-aged police officer furrowed his brows and was puzzled. He took the phone anyway. Who's this? Lu Dajuan asked. Who the hell are you? I tell you, there's a suspect of a serious crime here. I'm bringing him back to the police station for interrogation, the police officer shouted into the phone. Damn it, I am Lu Dajuan. Do you know who Lu Dajuan is? Who are you, tell me your name. Lu Dajuan started scolding him over the phone. The middle-aged police officer was confused. The name, Lu Dajuan, sounded familiar. Which Lu Dajuan is this? Damn it, how many Lu Dajuans are there in the entire Westridge district? Brilliant property, ever heard of it? The middle-aged police officer trembled and broke out in cold sweat. Lu Dajuan was the president of Brilliant Property. How would he not know who he was? He was one of the most prolific people in the entire Westridge district. He would not have been intimidated if he was on official duty and if there was an actual serious crime. However, he was there to prank the kid. His face turned pale, and his heart thumped in his chest. Damn it, how can this country bumpkin have any relation with the president of Brilliant Property? I thought he had a sugar mama. I'm finished. If he lets my boss know about this, I'm totally finished. The police officer swallowed hard. He raised his other hand to wipe the cold sweat off his forehead. You are really President Lu. You don't say. President Lu. This is a misunderstanding. He stammered out of anxiety. Misunderstanding. Misunderstanding my ass. You just wait there, I'm coming over. Don't even think of running away. After President Lu finished speaking, he hung up the call. The middle-aged police officer's face was ashen. His hand was trembling as he grasped the phone. He was already cursing Zhang Tianhao down to hell in his heart. What did he mean by, he's just a country bumpkin, you'll have a good time tormenting him? It's all a trap. If he can get the president of Brilliant Property to come to his aid, how can he be an easy target? I'm finished. I'm really finished this time. He was as on edge as sitting on a hot skillet. Behind him, the younger police officer also looked anxious. He knew that he had hit a snag this time. Brother Tang. The middle-aged police officer greeted him with a forced smile as he handed the phone back to Tang Hao. Who's your brother? Tang Hao's face was cold. The middle-aged police officer could only smile awkwardly at the snub. His face became greener and greener. Didn't President Lu say earlier that you should wait for him? Then we'll just wait. Tang Hao said coldly. Then, he leaned on his little three-wheeled motorcycle and waited silently. The crowd of villagers were starting to get confused. What kind of drama was this? Were they not trying to arrest Tang Hao earlier? How did the situation develop like this? Why did the police officer look like he was afraid of Tang Hao? Hey, aren't you police officers? If he committed a crime, why aren't you arresting him? His aunt yelled. Arrest. I'll arrest you. The middle-aged police officer roared out of panic. His aunt was intimidated and kept her mouth shut. As time passed, the crowd that surrounded them became bigger. Almost half the village had gathered in front of Tang Hao's house to witness and discuss this uncanny scene. About 20 minutes later, they heard a commotion at the entrance of the village. Everyone turned to look and saw a cavalcade of cars traveling along the village road. All the cars in the cavalcade were luxury cars. The car in the lead was a Rolls-Royce Phantom. Behind it were Mercedes, Benzes and BMWs. Everyone was awed by this opulent spectacle. Wow, these cars are so pretty. Each one of them must cost a few $100,000. Pa! A few $100,000. More like a few million. Where did all these big bosses come from? Why are they here at Tang Village? The villagers were confused. Tang Village was just a small rural village by the mountain. Strangers rarely visited the place. Today, they were visited by a police car, then a cavalcade of luxury cars. It was strange indeed. The cavalcade paraded down the road and stopped in front of the crowd. The car doors opened and people stepped out of the cars. Each one of them was dressed handsomely and had an aura of authority. Almost the entire village was gathered there. The scene was crowded. Wow, they're all big bosses. Why are they all here? Don't tell me they like this piece of land and want to build a factory here. The discussions became more agitated, they almost forgot about the issue with Tang Hao. They did not think that these two incidents were related. At this moment, the group of big bosses walked toward Tang Hao and greeted him passionately.